And welcome. I'm Michael Higham, IGN's Tech Reviews Editor, and you're watching a special CES report all about the tech trends that are going to define 2026 and beyond. And I can't do this by myself, though. So, here to discuss some of the most cutting-edge consumer electronics unveiled at this year's show, I am joined by David Lumb from CNET, Matthew Buzzi from PC Mag, and Tim Werth from Mashable. Welcome, fellas. I hope you all are recovering from the show because we have a lot to discuss. But I want to start with some quick hits. I know we saw a lot, but what was your favorite thing that you saw at the show? I'll start with you, David.
Gamers, you're sitting in the middle of a game and you wonder what's going on with my brain. That is what Neurable is here to solve. I sat down with this company that has been doing brain scans for a while and has shrunken it down to work on a headset just like the one I'm wearing, and has a whole setup that will show you your brain battery, your focus, see if you're tilted or not. That was a pretty cool thing for me to see, given I frequently power down or stress out in the middle of a match. So I'm kind of excited about that technology and kind of scared that a headphone can read my brain activity. So that was the coolest thing I saw at CES.
Yeah, I was hearing some rumblings about it, and a little skeptical on the technology, but you know, at CES we see a lot of stuff in the early stages, and they eventually evolve over the years, and we see that kind of evolve from show to show and year to year. But Tim, tell me a little bit about your favorite thing that you saw at the show.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I loved the Lego Smart Play system that they just released. I loved Xreal's ROG smart glasses that project a giant virtual, display of whatever game you're playing. But my favorite is actually pretty simple. It's the Ovec Optics sunglasses with a custom tint. You literally just slide your finger along the side frame and the tint changes automatic. It's simple, but it's also really cool. It's accessible. It's not trying to do a million things. It just does one really cool thing. So that's my personal favorite. There's a lot of other things I'm going to talk about, but yeah, that's it for me for sure.
Cool. Matthew, what about you?
I saw a lot of good computing technology in, Intel's new Panther Lake chips, things like that. But that's as far as catching, attractive, visually interesting things. I'm gonna go with the Lenovo Legion rollable prototype. You can basically turn your gaming laptop into a widescreen gaming monitor. Ultra-wide monitors become increasingly popular for gamers. So this is sort of, you can make it 16 inches, you can make it 21 inches, you can make it 23 inches. It can stop along the way. It's, definitely a work in progress. It's a prototype. The screen could use some work, but it's just something that really, the application you can see right away, and it just looks cool.
Yeah, I got hands-on with that myself too, and as someone who uses ultra-wide monitors for gaming as well, it was almost unreal to see how that screen unfolds. Of course, it was a prototype. It's not a full product that Lenovo is releasing quite yet. Mm-hmm. And you could see some of the creases in the screen or whatever. But of course, like, the idea and the implementation seemed like it's already there. Like, that screen was pretty crisp. The resolution was nice. I would love to test it myself when that time comes along. But for me, as maybe I'm a bit of a boring guy, but the Asus Kithara, which is a open back gaming headset, was probably my favorite thing. I'm a big audiophile guy, and I've reviewed a lot of headsets here at IGN, and so it's almost hard to be impressed with headsets at this point. But open back, I'm a big fan of open back design as someone who's used Sennheisers for many, many years. So it's really cool to see Asus, which is a traditional gaming brand, kind of delve deeper into the audiophile game and do specific things by collaborating with Hi-Fi Man. And I think that's going to be a really cool product when it launches soon after the show. And I was testing it myself, and I can't wait to get my hands on it myself. So, but those are some of the quick hits that we saw, but a big ticket item that we always want to talk about is TVs. And we see TVs evolve little by little at each show. And in 2026, the average TV size is about 65 inches. But if you were at CES, everything was much, much bigger than that. And it took up a lot of floor space at CES. So if you're considering a new TV and to take up some of your extra space, if you want something bigger or a little bit more detailed in the near future, here's a look at this year's lineup of new TVs. IGN's here at CES 2026, and of course, we have to check out what's new with TVs. We saw some state-of-the-art stuff, so if you got the money to blow, this is what you want to check out now and in the near future. So let me show y'all what we saw. Let me start by talking about TCL's X11L SQD Mini LED TV. What's crazy about this one is that it uses 10,000 nits of brightness. SQD also stands for Super Quantum Dot, which is smaller than traditional quantum dot. This allows for more detail and better color reproduction and wild max brightness. 10,000 nits is a lot, and this is one of the few TVs that's able to take advantage of Dolby Vision 2. Some of the more basic tech specs, it runs 4K 144Hz, but you really notice the difference when you see it side by side with other TVs. So here at the TCL booth, they demoed the X11L alongside their other TVs, and the side-by-side difference was really noticeable. While Mini RGB and QD Mini LED looked great, the X11L's SQD Mini LED display won me over. It's much more bright and the details really come through. While things like 8K have been the trend in the past, these are the things that you will notice on newer TVs going into 2026. The X11L's won a bunch of awards here at CES, and it's available now, and boy howdy, you're gonna have to spend a lot for it, but maybe it's worth it if you're looking for this. While the X11L is super impressive, what really caught my eye was LG's wallpaper TV. Technically, it's called the LG OLED Evo W6, and it is 9mm thin. Just for reference, the guy at the demo station put his index finger up to the TV, and the TV was thinner than his finger. Now, how is this possible? Well, it's the Zero Connect wireless box that comes with the TV where you plug in all of your devices. It's sort of like a set-top box, and it beams the signal of your devices to the TV. Now, the thing that I'm skeptical about is the super low latency. While it does rate at about 1 millisecond of latency, when you play games that require instant movements and instant reactions, like a Souls-like or an FPS, any sort of latency is going to be noticeable. So I wasn't able to test it out there, but I'm very keen on looking at input latency if I do get hands-on with this in the future. I will say that the color range looks great, and LG has something called Hyper Radiant Color Tech for better color reproduction. It also has a new A11 processor in the back end. It's super bright, runs 4K, 165Hz, it's glossy and has minimal reflection. The LG Hub is also built into the TV, so you can access things like Xbox Cloud Gaming and NVIDIA GeForce Now, which goes to 4K 120Hz, so you can take advantage of its technical specs. LG also collaborated with Razer to make something like the Wolverine V3 that connects directly to your TV via Bluetooth, and it's supposed to have super low latency as well. With anything of this caliber, you'll want to know what the price is, and there's nothing we can say right now because LG told us that they'll have more information leading into 2026. So going into CES 2026, the big trend now is micro RGB LED backlighting, and this is supposed to give you better color reproduction across the board, and a lot of manufacturers are using it now. Now, I'm not going to bog you down in all the technical details. You can look it up yourself, but I will tell you about the experience of viewing things using a micro LED RGB TV. LG briefly explained this to me, and every individual LED has RGB for better color accuracy and deeper contrast. This technology allows displays to hit 100% of the BT 2020 color gamut, and displays of this caliber get thousands of local dimming zones for better color reproduction across the board. We also went over to Hisense, and if you're looking for big TVs, I'm talking home theater setups, over 100 inches of TV space, you'll definitely want to check these out. I'll start with the ridiculously large 163MX. As the title says, it's 163 inches. It's a micro LED TV with RGB Y being yellow. This adds to the RGB range for better color reproduction and also promises full BT 2020 color space. It's one of those things you have to see to believe because it doesn't really lose that much image quality even though it has this enormous size that could stretch the image itself. I think it's a testament to the micro LED tech and the RGB Y color space. We also checked out the 116UXS, which is a 116-inch TV. This is Hisense's dive into RGB Mini LED. As I mentioned, this is a trend across the board with TVs, and Hisense is doing it well. The subtle thing about this one is that it's adding sky blue to the RGB range, which helps with image quality, but I think that the more practical use is that it's going to limit blue light. So if you're watching something or playing games for a really long time, your eyes won't feel as tired, or so they say. While CES might not be a big show for gaming, we did get our hands on Phantom Blade Zero, testing out Hisense's new gaming monitors. Starting with the 27GX Pro, it runs a 5K resolution at 165Hz, which is 5120 by 2880 if you want to get it exact. It's one of the few 5K monitors and it just came out. But you can also use it at 144p and get 330Hz refresh rate, which is kind of wild. It uses a 0OD mini LED display, which means you do get a lot of brightness and detail with good color reproduction. It has a glossy finish with little reflection or glare, which I tested by putting my phone flashlight up to the screen, and it's barely noticeable. Hisense also has the 32GX, which does 4K 160Hz or 1080p at 320Hz. We've seen these kinds of specs on gaming monitors in recent years, but the thing about this one is that you can swap between the two instantly with a switch that's built into the monitor. And being able to run through the playable demo of Phantom Blade Zero, I got to see how this performs in action. Granted, I wasn't able to push its capabilities since the demo was locked to 60 frames per second. These also have smart TV capabilities. 32 inches is a pretty big display, so maybe you'll get some use out of it, but if anything, having its own hub and remote gives it a little bit more flexibility than you would see on traditional gaming monitors. It's wild to see how much TVs are still evolving, and it's the big ticket item here at CES 2026. But we also have a roundup of the best gaming accessories that we saw, and for everything else here at the show, stick with IGN. There's still a lot more to discuss when it comes to TVs, and I know we mentioned micro RGB LED TVs just now, but I'm going to put Tim on the spot because I need you to explain, in layman's terms, why micro RGB might be the next big thing when it comes to the TV space.
Yeah, for sure. Let me give you a word of warning first. We're
Okay.
getting so advanced with TV display technology that it's becoming almost impossible to explain it in layman's terms at all. We're fast getting to the point where explaining how it works is almost impossible unless you have an engineering degree, because you have to dumb it down so much to even explain it to the average person like myself that it's not even really accurate anymore, but I'll do my best, okay? So
Okay.
micro RGB, typically these OLED screens have either a white backlight or a blue backlight. These new micro RGB TVs actually use individual red, green, blue backlights. So it actually provides much stronger, the strongest I think ever seen color accuracy. It also provides better brightness, better contrast. The other advantage they have is they have more what's called local dimming zones. So you get truer blacks. So it's really a step above OLED. You know, Samsung called it not just premium, but ultra premium. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But yeah, we're at the point where explaining the difference between micro RGB, mini LED, micro OLED, OLED, LG just introduced WOLED, is getting tricky. And you know, the truth is TVs are fast approaching the limits of the human eye. So
Yeah.
we're reaching peak TV.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it myself. It's like you can see the difference, but in in practicality, you know, are you going to notice that difference, and is it going to be worth the price? So like, how premium are we talking about here? Do you have what can you tell us in terms of like what the price difference is going to be, and if you think that price difference matters, or if it's worth it, or if you're going to see that micro RGB come down as it becomes more and more adopted? What's your take on the pricing and how premium products are in the TV space?
Yeah, the pricing difference is extreme. So there's actually only one micro RGB on the market that I'm aware of from Samsung. It's about 115 inches. The sticker price is $30,000. Now, the micro RGBs showed off at CES are even larger and even more advanced. And I think there's a reason LG and Samsung didn't say how much they're going to cost. Now, yes, 5 years out, will this display technology be more affordable? We have to assume so, right? But if you're actually looking for TVs that you can afford and you can play games on, micro RGB may have been the big focus at CES. But for people actually in the market now, I would say forget our micro RGB. You know, you want to get an OLED or a QLED. The honest truth is a nice OLED like the LG C6 or G6 that's coming this year, or Samsung's new S95H OLED TV. That'd be my personal recommendation. That's going to be a much more practical pick for the average person. But last thing I'll say, even a mid-range QLED TV is going to have an incredible display. So, I mean, it's a really good time to be buying TVs, honestly.
So in terms of OLED, is there anything you could share in terms of LG bringing their OLED TVs up to like a higher standard or anything? Because I saw their new G6, and you mentioned their new G6, and that's still an OLED TV. Is there anything you could share in terms of why someone, like, for example, I'm still on a B series from like 5 years ago, and I saw that and I was thinking, like, is this something that I would want to upgrade to? Because it does, it does look better, but is there anything that they've shared with you in terms of how they've upgraded their standard OLED TVs?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely incremental upgrades over the previous generation. I went to a LG demo where they showed some of the new TVs side by side with some non-OLED TVs or older generations, and the blacks were definitely much clearer. And I'd say the contrast was very impressive. There was no halo effect. The light wasn't, bleeding into the pixels over. The colors were extremely consistent. So if you want the top of the line, best possible display, and you've got the budget for it, I would say, yeah, upgrade for sure. But again, for the average person, the average gamer, do you need one of these flagship TVs? Not unless you've got, $2,500 to $5,000 to spare. I'd say for the average person, I'd stick with your B5 or whatever it is for a couple more years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's always a question of practicality when it comes to new tech that is shown off at CES, because it's kind of a show for a lot of companies to flex these new things, and they might not be the most affordable or approachable products out there. And that's kind of the thing, is like, oh, maybe we'll see this in a more practical way 5 to 6 years from now. And I remember my first CES back in 2017, 8K was the big topic. And even at the time, I was like, yeah, 8K is not happening for another 10 years. And we're 10 years from that point almost. And yeah, we're not talking 8K. And I think, like, as far-fetched as micro RGB might be right now for a standard consumer, I do think that it is something a little bit more tangible than 8K, and hopefully we'll see that to be more approachable in the future. Especially for coming from our perspective, as like for IGN, like, we care a lot about how these things perform with gaming, and so there's other things we look at in terms of latency, refresh rate, a lot of things that we would typically attribute to gaming monitors, we look for in TVs a lot more now, with a much more keener eye. And Matthew, I know that you saw some gaming monitors and you have a lot to share with gaming monitors, but I want to throw it to you, David, first, to talk a little bit about the TVs that your team saw, and if there's anything you would recommend in terms of, like, if you're a gamer and you have a console set up, a home theater set up, you don't want to blow $30,000 on a new TV. Some of the more tangible things that you saw that might appeal to that particular crowd.
Yeah, I've got my team, including my editor, Ty Pendlebury. He saw a lot of TVs. There are a few that stood out to me for just being a little different. So I bow to Tim and everyone else's TV experience here. But a couple that caught my eye that are probably here for a broader or someone who wants something a little different on their wall. Hisense's 116UXS is a big 116-inch mini LED TV. Huge, right? Beautiful machine. But its significant factor, its wow factor, is that it adds a cyan pixel. Now, this thing is supposed to make greens pop. And what do we need greens in? Sports. This is the green of the field is going to really come alive, presumably, with this addition to the RGB spectrum. So my assumption is this is TV makers going for a real sports demographic. Now, I know not all gamers are here with sports, but anything that gives us a brighter color gamut is going to be better and something that we really want to look toward as a trend, especially given that it's harder and harder to find games split across all these streaming options. And the other one we looked at was actually Ty's and CNET's best of CES was the Samsung S95H OLED. This thing is kind of like Samsung's The Frame in that like you plunk it on a wall and you have it rotate through some art, but expanded to an extreme degree. This thing doesn't have burn-ins, so you can just let it sit in on an image for a while. It's kind of more of a nice luxury object, but at least your TV can do something different rather than sit there turned off for most of the day until you can get back into your gaming mode at the end of the day.
Okay. With Matthew focusing on more gaming monitors and gaming centric products, well, tell us about some of the stuff you saw. I saw some pretty sweet gaming monitors from Hisense, but I want to throw it to you first to let us know everything that you saw in terms of gaming displays.
Yeah, I think some new panels hit the market that let some of the gaming focused manufacturers do some interesting things with resolution and refresh rate. Acer and MSI in particular, I saw some cool ones from Acer that were dual resolution, dual refresh rate, so you could switch between like two different sets of them depending on your needs. So one was an Acer Nitro model, which is more their mainstream brand, but that was you got a really high res option, 5K, which obviously you're not going to game on, with a lower refresh rate, or a more standard QHD, boost the refresh rate. And then Acer had an interesting one that was up to 1,000 hertz, which, unlike the NVIDIA Pulsar, which is kind of a boosted, much like DLSS, it's sort of like a boosted software and hardware combined to enhance. This is a true 1,000 hertz, but only at 720p, which sounds like, why would anybody want to do that in 2026? I'm sure that doesn't sound very appealing, but there are those, those esports sickos out there, the hardcore competitive players. Even if you're not an actual professional gamer, there are people who high rank. That's the kind of game they play. They love to grind. Higher frame rate, the better. They were already probably dialing their resolution down as low as it could go, turning all the settings low. That way you can play 720p, 1,000 hertz. Get games like Counter-Strike, your favorite battle royale. You're boosting your frame rate super, super high to get that best performance, or a more normal QHD, 300 something hertz refresh rate, a little more reasonable. So it had all of those in one monitor. Is kind of a cool concept, and I think that's going to be something that MSI had something similar. So I think that's going to be something that kind of proliferates through the gaming monitor space.
Yeah, I saw something similar from Hisense as well, 5K, which is I think 5120 by 2880 if I got that right, which is a little higher than 4K. It's a little bit crisper, but it does have that high refresh rate of like 165 hertz, I think it is, and then it has like that switcher where you just like flip the switch and immediately goes to 1080p, 360 hertz, I believe it is. So that is like a trend that I'm seeing. If Hisense is doing it, Acer seems to be doing it. Other companies are trying that out. So maybe that's something that will be useful for the esports scene. But as a Counter-Strike 2 player myself and Valorant player, like I do tend to gravitate towards higher refresh rate. But when it comes to other games that I play, my single player cinematic experiences, I'm looking at the TVs again, and I think the one that I want to call out is the TCL X11L Super Quantum Dot SQD LED TV. Now, again, something that's going to be way out of my price range for now. It just came out during the week of CES, but I got to see it side by side with the rest of TCL's TVs, and it's one of the few TVs that hits, or maybe the only one that hits 10,000 nits of brightness and is able to take full advantage of Dolby Vision 2's HDR range. And when I saw them side by side, it was really bright, but not like it's not going to blow your eyes out. But I think the brightness also adds more texture to some of the things that you're seeing on the TV, and that's kind of like the SQD technology being put to use. And so I think maybe it's a little bit more impactful than micro RGB as of now, but the TCL X11L is probably my favorite TV that I saw at the show. If not for the LG wallpaper TV. I know some of us saw that as well. It's called the OLED Evo W6. And I'm a little skeptical on this one. I like how thin it is. It's 9 millimeters thin. So if you put it up on the wall, it's I think my index finger is thicker than this TV. But as a consequence, you need to have this set-top box that wirelessly beams the signal to the TV, since it doesn't have any ports on the TV itself. And that's where I'm a little skeptical about latency. They said that it's only like about 1 millisecond of latency, which is kind of normal across the board. They didn't let us test it out, but we did get to see it running images and cinematic videos and all that. But I want to try it out for myself because it is an interesting technology where it's just like this thing that is just plastered on the wall and everything is connected to this box, and it's wirelessly beamed, and it has LG's hub on it, so you could have things like GeForce Now and Xbox Cloud streaming if you're into that. But yeah, that is one of the standouts there. So lots of TVs and a lot of money that will be spent on a lot of these new TVs. But again, CES is also a look into the future, not necessarily what's practical for us now as consumers. But so long as you got an OLED in recent days, or if you got in a new gaming monitor in recent months, I'm sure you'll be fine for the next couple of years. You don't have to go out and buy these things right away. So whatever you have right now, it's going to be perfectly fine for gaming probably. And while I have your attention on the topic, if you're looking for some awesome video games to play right now on your TV or gaming monitor you'll already own, Humble has you covered. Right now on the Humble January Choice Bundle, we'll get you modern classics like Tomb Raiders 4 through 6 remastered, The Hunt Showdown 1896, Sonic Frontiers, and more, all for one low price. Head on over to humblebundle.com to learn more and start playing today. And speaking of video games, while TVs keep getting bigger and fancier, the players yearn for portable gaming PC handhelds. They can bring them everywhere, and it's kind of one of the big revolutions of gaming in recent years. You know, the Switch came out and everyone wanted to follow suit, but few had done it right in the PC space. Then we saw the Steam Deck, then we saw Asus drop their own ROG Ally, and then we saw MSI jump in, we saw Lenovo jump in. All these companies are jumping in. But also the Steam Machine is coming soon, and mini PCs are taking much more of a foothold in the future and now as well. And we saw some of those mini PCs at the show. So let's check out some of the cool handhelds and mini PCs we saw at CES. Gaming handhelds basically everywhere. We want to see what the future holds with mini PCs and other handhelds, and we have a small handful here at CES, so let's check it out. One of the standout mini PCs here at CES is the Thunder Robot Mix Gaming 2. Now, the reason why this is a standout, it is technically the smallest mini PC to fit a discrete RTX 50 series graphics card in it. This one is packed with a 5070 Ti, but it also has an Intel Core Ultra 9 CPU with it, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 1 terabyte SSD. Now, Thunder Robot did say that while this is available in China, they are exploring expanding to North America and other regions. But the problem is the RAM shortage and RAM prices, and they're trying to find a good timing for bringing this over to the States and other regions. So that is kind of a microcosm of how the RAM shortage and the RAM prices spiking have affected other manufacturers in putting out their products. And this has 32 gigs of RAM, and that's not going to come cheap. If anyone knows what it's like to build a PC or the current market when you're looking for pre-built PCs, that's what's spiking the prices. And so Thunder Robot is kind of waiting in the wings for global market conditions to kind of settle before they explore putting this out. So they are aiming for sometime this year, but again, it's kind of unpredictable times for PC manufacturers and anyone who puts RAM in their products. Of course, with the advent of the Steam Machine looming, mini PCs are kind of getting a lot more traction. Of course, this looks different from the Steam Machine. It's a lot taller, it's more of a tower. But when it comes to volume and size, it does kind of match up with that, just vertically. And but this is going to be a lot more powerful than a Steam Machine by virtue of it having a discrete RTX 50 series card. But again, like I said, we're not even sure if it's going to come out or when it's going to come out stateside, so stay tuned for that. Here at the 1X Player booth, we have the 1X Fly Apex, which is a pretty high-end gaming handheld. And you know, we've seen so many gaming handhelds now from Asus. We have the Steam Deck, of course the Switch 2, but this is a PC running on Windows as if it was an Asus ROG Ally. Very similar to that in terms of setup, but this is an 8-inch screen running an AMD AI 395 plus CPU.
and with a 120 hertz refresh rate screen. I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 on it, and it's kind of the standard benchmark for a lot of handhelds. I ran the benchmark at 1200p resolution as well with high settings, and it was getting around 50 to 60 FPS, so the performance is definitely there. When it comes to the ergonomics, it's a bit bulky because it is also using an 8-inch screen, but it does look good and it runs really well. And another thing too is that they have a proprietary port in the back, so if you want to add a battery charging pack to the back, you can get higher wattage, better performance. It does run a little hot, but this is one model that they have available. There's another model that they have available on Indiegogo and on their website that has water cooling, and you would have to get their separate Frost Bay water cooler if you want to do that. That'll get you higher wattage, better cooling, which means you could pump out better performance from the processor, but that does kind of defeat the purpose of a gaming handheld, right? Of course, we're not able to test battery life, and that's a huge thing, which is why that battery pack is kind of important to this whole thing. It is kind of a selling point for the handheld, but again, that adds weight. In terms of ergonomics, the buttons feel good. They're a little small, but I was able to get around in Cyberpunk. I was playing it myself, so the performance is there. The ergonomics, you know, I've had better, especially in light of the Asus ROG Xbox Ally, where the ergonomics feel like a full controller. I think the standard is a lot higher these days, so you're going to see a lot of these at CES and a lot of people putting out their own handhelds using AMD's AI Max 395 Plus processor. So high performance isn't really the key thing anymore. We know we can get performance out of the games now. Now it's all about how convenient is it to use? Is it running Windows? Is it running SteamOS? Are you able to configure things the way you like with Linux and all that? Of course, that's all configurable if you know how to do that. But it does come packed with Windows, so you do have to kind of work around the headaches of using a Windows platform. So for the One X Fly Apex, there's a lot of different models that you can get depending on what you want in terms of RAM or storage, but you're going to be paying quite a bit for this. The starting model is around $1,500 and goes upwards of $2,000. And if you want the liquid cooled version, that is going to be a little bit more expensive, about $100 to $150 up per model, depending on the specs that you want to get. And of course, you're going to want to get the cooler with it if you're going to take advantage of that. So this is one of the more expensive gaming handhelds out there. Like I said, the performance is there, and all the extra stuff on top of it is kind of what you're buying into and what you're paying for. And in the market of all the handhelds today, it is stiff competition, but it is doing something different, and you need to stand out in some way. One of the other new mini PCs we're seeing here at CES is the Minis Forum G7 Pro. Now, Minis Forum has been making mini PCs for a while, but this is a new model that is due out next month, and it has a sleek, tall, slim build, so it's a little different from what you've seen from maybe some other mini PCs they've built or across the board, and definitely different from the Steam Machine. This runs Windows also, and it has an RTX 5070 laptop card and an Intel Core i9-14 series CPU. The problem is with a lot of these pre-built PCs is the RAM shortage, and RAM pricing has impacted how much it's going to be. Minis Forum is not talking about pricing quite yet, even though it's out soon, but that is also due in part to the RAM spikes. But I was playing Black Myth Wukong at 1080p high settings and getting upwards of 90 to 100 frames per second, and that's kind of what you expect from a high-end laptop running a 5070 graphics card. But if you are interested in mini PCs, Minis Forum is doing this for a while, and the G7 Pro is one of their nicest builds yet. The future of gaming and handhelds is actually a lot more exciting because Intel's putting out their own chip, and we have that story on IGN.com. And for everything else in the world of gaming and tech at CES 2026, stick with IGN.
Fun fact, if you wanted to fit that new gaming handheld that we just saw right there, you're going to need a new pair of Jinko jeans. And thanks to Gen Z for bringing back millennial fashion. You know, I miss those things. I haven't seen them since middle school. So if you want to fit that 8-inch screen and the big hulking portable in your back pocket, get you a pair because, yeah, these things are huge. And if you want the rest of those portable gaming PCs, they're not getting any smaller. But desktops are getting a little bit smaller, and mini PCs are now the big breakthrough. They've been around for a long time. I've been building mini ITX PCs for a while, but these discrete, pre-built mini PCs that are either tall and slim or box like a Steam machine. I think this is the new trend. It seems like Valve always is a trendsetter in the hardware space. But that comes with a lot of caveats. But first, I kind of want to talk about how we're feeling about this tiny PC revolution. Again, nothing new in the do-it-yourself space, but it is becoming a lot more prevalent, a lot more accessible to a wider audience, and it's appealing to a larger crowd. And we saw some of that at CES. So I kind of want to go around the table and see how we're feeling about it. Matthew, I want to start with you and sort of what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, I think these sort of pre-built mini non-DIY systems are going to be the path forward with the price of components on the market and the availability of memory right now. We've seen a number of them for years. I think even some unexpected players like Framework last year got into the mini PC space. I reviewed the Framework desktop. Chip makers even coming up with new angles to approach this sort of market. The Ryzen AI Max Plus chips, which use unified system memory, so these small towers that can't even fit a full-size graphics card inside them have the ability to draw on the system memory and use it as VRAM. Like, things are changing in this space, which is kind of an unexpected non-DIY head. Sorry to the hardcore PC builders out there. Pre-built market. It's becoming really interesting.
Yeah, Tim, what are you seeing out there? How are you feeling about this, and kind of what's your perspective on the mini PCs and pre-built PCs as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, speaking as someone who kind of gave up on gaming, don't break out the pitchforks. In After my Skyrim days, anything that's pre-built is actually very appealing to me. Part of the reason I think people like me moved away from gaming is that it's very, very complicated. It's intimidating if you don't want to build your own PC or stay up to date on all the latest GPUs and CPUs and everything you need to know. A pre-built machine that just kind of does it out of the box is very, very appealing. That being said, I think handhelds are also very attractive. So there's a lot of different choices, which is itself a little bit confusing, but anything that works out of the box, I think, is a good thing.
For sure. David, I know you mentioned Lenovo Mini PC. Can you give us a little bit about what you saw with them?
Yeah, this is the Lenovo Yoga Mini I, and it's sort of like this, I don't know, coaster-shaped, puck-shaped little Mac Mini sort of competitor. I mean, I don't expect this thing to do a ton of gaming, but for $700, it is kind of the normie version of this. Comes with a Intel Core, or up to an Intel Core Ultra X7 processor, up to 32 gigs of RAM, so you can stuff a lot in there. 2 terabytes of storage, right? And like a baseline of ports behind it, your standard 1 Thunderbolt, 1 HDMI, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the kind of thing you can throw on your desktop or take with you to and from work. I wouldn't expect it to really game a lot, but I think a lot of these Steam Machine-esque sort of things are, using integrated graphics or anything to get your baseline level of indie games, games from yesteryear. It's probably not meant for a gamer crowd, but it's something that they could take to and from work that is at least attractive on a desk, and fits in your pocket, fits in your back pocket, fits in your Jinkos.
Could I add to that's a great segue, because in addition to that mini PC, Lenovo showed off 2 all-in-one desktops, which normally, not for gaming at all. In addition to that mini PC, those are all running on Intel's new Panther Lake platform, which they sort of, the big push they're doing is the graphics cores in this chip integrated into this without an NVIDIA discrete GPU are way more capable of gaming than any Intel chip has been in the past. So these form factors that you might not expect are able to do, like you said, maybe not your hardcore AAA. Hardcore gamer experience is not what you would go for, but if you happen to have the laptop you work on, not your gaming PC with you, these things will be more capable of running some games, and these all-in-one desktops can also play some games. So Intel's Panther Lake chips will also help this sort of space and these pre-built systems and these different form factors, and the non-traditional paths to gaming have been opened up by the silicon advancements.
Absolutely. And one of the big stories that we reported on as well during CES was that Intel has said that they're going to enter the APU market in a big way to compete with AMD's chips that they've been putting in a lot of these portable devices. I mean, you look at a lot of portable gaming PCs and they're all running AMD hardware, and they've kind of had more or less a lock on that market. Whether you're looking at the Steam Deck, or if you're looking at Asus ROG Allies or MSI Claws, like they're all running AMD hardware. But Intel is going to try to make a break into that space as well. So it almost feels like, again, Valve comes out with the Steam Deck, people follow suit. Then we have the Steam Machine. It feels like a lot of people are going to follow suit there as well. And then now we have AMD and Intel in that kind of portable gaming space, providing their hardware. It feels like there's going to be a lot more options. It feels like the competition is going to kind of, a rising tide raises all boats. But then there are a lot of other factors that go into that. And I think it was very clear when I got to see the Thunder Robot Mix Gaming 2, which is a very tall, slim, pre-built sort of mini PC that is out in China. And Thunder Robot wants to explore bringing that stateside. And as you saw in the video, I talked with the global marketing manager, and he was telling me, like, we're just waiting when we can bring this to other regions, but we just can't right now because we can't ramp up production because of RAM prices. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But the thing that stood out to me about the Thunder Robot Mix Gaming 2 PC is that it's technically the smallest volume-wise to fit a discrete RTX 50 series card, which is pretty impressive on an engineering front. But that also gives you like super great performance, better than what you would see on the Steam Machine. But of course, these things serve different purposes. You have a high-end machine, you have something that's presumably affordable, because we don't know what the Steam Machine is going to cost quite yet. And I suspect that part of the reason why we don't know how much of the Steam Machine is going to cost quite yet, maybe Valve's not ready to share, but maybe also we don't know how much, the RAM shortage is going to affect the overall price of things this year, next year, and the years after, right? So it's the big topic around gaming PCs and any hardware, really. Like, we've seen price increases with the PS5 and Xbox 5 years after their launch. And, you go on any site to buy PC hardware, and RAM, which was once like $150 for a 32 gig setup of dual channel RAM, is now like $400 plus. And it's really wild how much it has been impacted. And that is sort of this gold rush towards AI. And like, that's a separate discussion. AI is a separate discussion that is that can be very, very complicated. But these data centers and the resources they require and the supply chain and the demand are not being met. So regular RAM is being priced upwards. But also, these companies have access to these parts in different ways than we do, but it's still going to affect them. And we see that reflected in the pricing and availability of a lot of these things. So when we're looking at mini gaming PCs versus the Steam Machine, and we're looking at prices in 2026 and beyond, how are we feeling? What do you suspect to happen this year and next, especially as we go into a new console generation? Matthew, I want to start with you.
Yeah, never has it been the case before where we don't even really, we ask, but we don't even expect to get an answer about pricing anymore. Normally, manufacturers I review a ton of laptops. Manufacturer shows me a new laptop. First thing is like, how much does it cost? That's what readers always ask. Like, how much does it cost? Yeah. How much is it? The last year and change, they don't have an answer. I think, Valve probably has a target in mind for the Steam Machine, for example, but it's possible, like many PC manufacturers, that they just don't even have a final price yet because the component prices are fluctuating. And so, yeah, it's the AI stuff is in large part another field, separate discussion, but in a way it's very relevant to this space because it's impacting availability, it's impacting pricing. We just don't really know what we're going to see down the line, and manufacturers have been warning us about price raises, and some have even changed the cost of things as configured on the site, surprising customers. It's pretty dicey, and we didn't even see NVIDIA for the first time in a long time not unveil a new consumer GPU at all. So that's they've gone all in on AI. So that's a big example of how it's impacting the space. Gaming laptops kind of took a back seat because they're putting all their attention and all their memory and all of their big announcements were about the data center chips that they're launching in the future. So consumers, as far as the gaming space, taking a little bit of a back seat this time.
Yeah, it's sort of the consumers that take the hit when you see something like this, and AI being like this new forefront, this new gold rush, even if there isn't any gold at the end of it, are kind of the ones who will suffer in terms of pricing and availability, and it's unfortunate to see. And NVIDIA is doing a bunch of other things too, as we mentioned with Pulsar, DLSS, and all that. But a lot of folks are looking around and be like, well, I can't really afford a 50 series card. we're not even thinking about the 60 series, and they're talking about bringing out old graphics cards. It's kind of a mess out there as we kind of move to newer technologies, and we see cool new things like the Steam Machine, and we expect people to other companies to follow suit. It's kind of this curveball that people didn't really realize was going to impact everything else. David, do you have any perspective on this matter?
Yeah, so my main remit is smartphones, and the smartphone industry is kind of bracing for how, not just if, but how much are, phone retailers going to raise their prices because of these RAM shortages. And I can only imagine it's going to be the same thing in gaming hardware. Just, bracing for what is the market going to accept and allow. But also a lot of the phones are going to reduce their RAM, their RAM spec. So not just, maintain, but like drop down and use other mitigating factors like, VRAM and regular storage, borrow from that. We saw some TCL phones at CES 2026 that use that sort of hack workaround to varying degrees of effectiveness. But considering like how expensive and scarce RAM is going to become, I think it's just the whole industry bracing for what is going to be their strategy to get around this sort of thing. And there's a minimum RAM for handling AI. I think it's 8 GB on the phone is sort of like the sweet spot. But does that mean that you're going to stay at 8 because you quote unquote need these AI features? Does that mean we're going to see, computer manufacturers just sort of deal with 16 gigs instead of everyone assuming that we're going to need to, move up to 32 for everything? I think doing more with less is kind of what's going to need to happen, whether that's finding some sort of software workarounds, finding some sort of, lowering demands of gaming or networking or whatever else, reducing background processes, like anything to keep the price manageable so consumers keep buying. That's my guess, just because I don't know if the RAM shortage is going to alleviate in the next year or two is what I've heard from analysts.
Yeah, I think like the demand that comes out of a lot of these AI projects that require data centers with generative AI and LLMs, and all of those hardware requirements, and there's like we can't ramp up manufacture to make up that gap. And I think that's a lot of people might not realize that that's the case, and that's not something that you can just like flip a switch and be like, oh, we're gonna have more factories pumping out more RAM. Like that's not really, doesn't really work like that. And I feel like, unfortunately, I felt this way about the video card space in a couple years back too, when everyone was mining for cryptocurrency. Is that I think the broader audience is going to kind of accept that RAM is going to be at a higher cost. It's not going to be $400 something forever for 32 gigabytes, but I think it will come down, but the normalized price will be higher than we had seen previously, which is, unfortunate. And, that's just something that we're going to have to deal with. And a lot of other companies are going to have to deal with as well, especially as we approach a new console generation. And we, who knows what Microsoft or PlayStation has in mind for their next generation of hardware when it comes to pricing and availability and being able to put these things out at a time where people actually want them. Tim, is there anything that you can share on your end on this whole dilemma?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, the big thing is just brace for impact, right? We kind of went through the same thing last year with tariffs, and now it's kind of all going on again with the memory shortage. Last year with tariffs was the first time I heard companies say, we don't know what the price is going to be. We have this awesome new product. We want you to test it and review it, but we actually don't know what the price tag is going to be even a month out from release. We're seeing a total repeat of that with the memory shortage. So the bad news is that, brands like Dell, HP, Lenovo, they've all signaled that price increases are coming with laptops in 2026. Unfortunately, I think that's very, very likely. One thing I'll note is that the biggest companies, so your Apples, your Samsungs, they're typically a little bit more insulated from price adjustments. They can usually absorb more of that. But that's bad news for people who like to buy things from like indie companies, right? So if you do like to, support those kind of upstart companies and brands, unfortunately, life's going to get a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's I'm almost hesitant to say that that's going to be a new normal, and I don't think we should necessarily, just put our heads down and accept that that is the way it is. But hopefully there are solutions to make things more affordable in the coming years, because it's a very complicated process. And we go to CES, we see a lot of these fancy things like, ooh, I want to get my hands on that. But again, there are many other factors that go into it. So whether it's mini PCs that are hot on the market, and more gaming devices, more portable gaming devices that you want to take on the go, these are things that you're going to have to consider when looking at that. But another thing you'll have to consider for a portable gaming device is probably the Pip-Boy 3000 replica that we have at the IGN store. So if you're looking for a very different kind of portable gaming device, be sure to check out the Fallout Pip-Boy 3000 replica, now available on the IGN store. It's got a fully functional LCD display that displays hundreds of screens from Fallout 3 and New Vegas, a working flashlight, and an FM radio, and it's even got an alarm clock. It won't run Fallout 4 without some heavy modifications. I know the DIY crowd is probably taking that as a challenge, but it's bound to be a hit at your next post-apocalyptic LARP session. Especially with the new season on the rise, I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be cosplaying their Fallout boys, their Vault boys, if you will. And you can find that, plus tons of more gaming shirts, collectibles, and gear at IGNstore.com. And one of the favorite things to look out for are at CES every year that I like to check out are gaming peripherals. So at CES, I got to check out a bunch of them, so I'm going to show a little bit of them right now. So here's some of our favorites.
2026, and while it's the look into the future of tech, that also includes gaming. We found a bunch of great peripherals on the show floor, so let me show y'all what we found. We're at the 8BitDo booth here at CES 2026, and one of the new things they're showing off is the Ultimate 3E controller for Xbox. What's special about this, even though 8BitDo has been making controllers for a very long time, a lot of high-end stuff as well, this one connects wirelessly to Xbox without a dongle, so it's the same as an Xbox Series Elite controller. And that's because it also has back paddles, programmable back here, and extra buttons on top. So you get like 3 shoulder buttons on top here, which is new for 8BitDo and an Xbox, officially Xbox licensed controller as well. So you got the programmable back buttons, and what I like about them is that they're a little bit easier to use than the Elite controller, and it feels a little bit more tightly packed than an Elite controller, I would say. Also a big fan of the D-pad. It's clicky, almost like a mechanical switch, so it makes it easier to do movements like quarter circles or distinct individual movements if you play platformers. And the sticks are smooth as any other 8BitDo controller, and I really like the grips on this as well. So overall, I played Street Fighter 6 with controller. It's kind of what you want from a high-end controller with all the buttons and the ergonomics and performance. This is supposed to come out around Q2 this year, and it's going to go for $150. But it might seem like a lot, but it comes with a lot more extra stuff as well. So even though it does connect to the Xbox wirelessly without a dongle, it does come with one, a USB-C dongle. So if you want to connect it to PC, you do it through that for very fast connectivity as well. And it does do Bluetooth for convenience. But that's not all. It also comes with a carrying case and additional accessories. Of course, you have your USB-C cable and some extra accessories if you want to have a 4-way D-pad or a different style of thumbsticks for better grip depending on your preference, and some extra A, B, X, Y buttons. What's cool about the face buttons is that you both get a micro switch version, which feels like a mouse click. If you prefer that, it's a bit of a shorter throw, it's a little easier to actuate, but it also comes with a swappable face buttons that are more traditional, as if it was a regular Xbox controller. So depending on your preference, so you take off the D-pad, you remove the faceplate, and then you pull out the face buttons as one unit, and then you swap in whichever one that you want. That all comes in the package along with the controller and everything else. We also checked out the 8BitDo Flip Pad, which is a USB-C attachment that plugs into the bottom of your phone and acts as a controller, and it's really convenient for playing retro-style games. So if you have emulators on your Android or iOS, since Apple is now allowing that stuff on the platform, this is a very convenient way to have a slim-fitted controller. And I've seen things like this in the past, where you slide your phone into a whole device, but it's bulky, it's not really great to take around. This is a lot more conducive to the mobile platform, and it flips onto your screen. And usually when you play emulated games, the games will play at the top of your screen, so you're not really like blocking anything from your view as you're playing. But if you have to move over to like a text, or if you're checking social media, you can just flip it downward like that, keep it connected without it getting in the way, and then flip it back up if you're ready to play again. So it's one of the most convenient solutions for having a gamepad with a mobile device, and you got the full controller suite with the D-pad, the face buttons, and the shoulder buttons on top of it as well. So, and I got to play Super Mario Brothers through insidious means. I'm just kidding, but I did get to use it playing a game, and it is exactly as you expected. The buttons themselves are a little bit more like mouse clicks, so it has a mechanical feel as opposed to a traditional style SNES controller, but it works really well, it's really convenient, and it's easy to take around. There also may be a feature in which if you're getting a call, you can answer it by flipping the controller downwards to get that flip phone era vibe. That's kind of what 8BitDo is going for, but we will see when it comes out in the summertime this year, and it's going to be around $25 to $40. I got my feet on the Gamer Playpad, and as a DDR player, as a longtime DDR player, I got high standards. And this is a Bluetooth controller. It's a step pad that you can use for DDR style games, but you can also play built-in games with like Temple Run and all kinds of like party style games. But I got to play this rhythm game that they have here, and because I have high standards, it wasn't exactly what I would play hard difficulty DDR songs with. There's a bit of latency because it is through Bluetooth. If you are playing on lower difficulties and kind of can adjust the timing of the steps themselves, of the note chart, maybe you can get it to work a little bit more accurately, but it was recognizing my steps, I'll say that much. There is a wired version coming later on that I suspect will have better latency, instant input, because when it comes to rhythm games, that's really what you need. But I did get to play some of the games that they have loaded here at CES, and it was a lot of fun. I play a lot of Stepmania on my PC, so I would like to get a cheap, convenient dance pad, and this is the kind of thing that I would be looking for. It didn't slip as much. We're having it on a hardwood floor. It's almost like a yoga mat, and it detects your steps. It's not tactile, so you do need to be mindful of where you're stepping so you don't kind of drift off of the center. And there's not going to be any bar to hold on to, so if you are playing higher difficulty songs and you do rely on the bar like I do sometimes, you're not going to have that. You kind of have to figure out your own. But I like the idea. I love the idea of having a soft mat that's really easy to set up, and I want to see more from it. I want to see it improve, and I want to see its application. As I mentioned, it is a Bluetooth controller, so here they have it connected to Apple TV, so they're playing Apple Arcade games with it. And because it's a Bluetooth controller, it's kind of compatible with whatever you're able to set it up with, and it will be recognized as if it's a gamepad. So I do look forward to trying this out myself and seeing how it could stand up to what I would have my setup as, again, with all my songs on Stepmania, but we'll see when I get my hands on it. So the Gamer Playpad is available through Kickstarter, and it's going to be $199 retail, $150 if you do jump into the Kickstarter, and it is planned to be shipping out this March. All right, we've seen a lot of mobile controllers, but surprisingly, there's still innovation in the space, and we've seen that with the M-Con Lite and the M-Con Slim. Both of these are mobile controllers that magnetically snap onto your phone and connect via Bluetooth. The thing about these is they feel like a phone case because it snaps at the back of it, and it's such a thin profile. And we got hands-on with both of them, and the M-Con Lite has a little bit more tactility to it. It's a little bit thicker, so you have a better grip on it, and it has TMR thumbsticks. They're not fully thumbsticks, they're more like 3DS sliding sticks, so it might not be the best solution performance-wise, but it is one of the more convenient options out there that I've seen so far. Even at CES this year, when we've seen a lot of mobile controllers, this one does stand out because of how convenient it is. But if you want something even smaller, the M-Con Slim is even thinner. But the thing you have to worry about is that it uses trackpads instead of joysticks. So again, you have to make a compromise to get the thinnest profile possible. But I was playing Minecraft with it, and while the software is still kind of in the works, I could see that this is something different and something that is for more casual things. Like you could play Minecraft with this without a problem. I'm not going to be playing anything through Game Pass, through cloud necessarily, but for more casual things, I think this is one of the better solutions I've seen so far. So you can get the original MCon right now, but you'll have to wait till the summer if you are interested in the MCon Lite, and a little bit after that for the MCon Slim, which is supposed to come out around the time of the iPhone 18. Genki's also here at CES, so you know we had to check them out. You may know them as the folks who put out some Switch accessories before the Switch 2 came out, but they are innovating yet again because they have a second round of accessories that are a little bit more in tune with the Switch 2's design now that we've had some time with the console. So they're redoing their entire system with grips. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna buy a shell that then attaches 6 different grip styles depending on what you want. So instead of getting the attack vector, which we had reviewed in the past, you know, it had its ups and downs, but now it's a lot more modular. Genki's going for something where you have to customize to your liking. And I think this gives it a lot more flexibility than just buying a single grip that you kind of attach to your console and have to live with. So they're going with 6 different grips. I tried out all of them. The one that stands out to me is the Dragon Back grip because there's grooves for each finger and really adds to make the handles on the Switch 2 much more substantial than they already are. So they're being kickstarted right now, and they're fully funded, and it will be out in June. But when you do go out there to choose which ones you want, you will go to the site, and then you'll choose which body shell you want for the Switch 2, which grips you want with that, and then there's a new sliding mechanism as well to keep them in place. I was using some of the prototypes, and it's a little tough to get them in and out, but once they're in place, they're going to be locked in, so they're not going to be sliding around. I really like the unibody design too, because it keeps the Joy-Con on the sides a lot more tighter, so if you feel any wiggle with the handheld right now, that helps secure it in place. And of course, you could add the grips, whichever ones you want, slide them in and out when you need to be more portable or whatever. So this is Genki's second round of accessories, and I think it's a lot better of an idea than it was when it initially came out. There's so much more that we saw at the show, so for everything in the world of gaming and tech, and maybe more than that, stick with IGN.
Before we wrap it up, we want to shine a light on some more outlandish products or something that might not be as flashy as a new TV or a new PlayStation or a new PlayStation car, but still could shape the quality of life in 2026 and could tell you what you might actually be interested in the coming years. So, David, I want to talk with you about the Death Stranding-like exoskeletons that we saw at the show. So CES always has a ton of robotics, and we've seen these exoskeleton frames here and there, but this is the first time that I went to the show and actually got hands-on with it, or well, in my case, legs on with it. And such is the case with you as well, because you actually went out for a hike in Vegas using one of these exoskeletons. So I want to kick it over to you and tell us about the various ones that you saw and your experience when you went hiking with it.
Yeah, so I went along with my colleague James Bricknell, who's been wearing the Hypershell X Ultra. That is their highest end model. Exoskeleton legs. These things sit about your waist and then clamp down above your knees. You actually wore them around the show floor. I took it hiking in the Red Rock Canyon. That is about a 20-minute drive from the Strip. Beautiful red rocks, as the title might imply, you know, sort of scrub vegetation. And as an experienced hiker myself, any help in the desert, right? Well, and it was a help. You power this thing up max and to max strength, and the motors on the side will actually lift your legs for you. So I was going on this hike, you know, getting a little extra help and picking my feet up so I wasn't sort of dragging my heels when I was going, and it actually saved me some effort. Obviously, this is only one of many exoskeleton designs. Some of them have some different approaches. Some of them were futzing with the knees, futzing with the ankles. This one was really just picking my feet up when they started to drag, and I looked pretty badass doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because as I was trying it myself at Unveiled on the first night we were there, I was a little skeptical about how it worked, but once I strapped it on and once I saw how the app worked and how it affected, or how you can change the settings of the exoskeleton itself, then it started to make sense, where it has like these pistons that essentially, and having it strapped behind your leg, it is essentially like having something lift your leg up as you lift it. And it knows when you're lifting your leg, so the pistons know when to expand or contract. And I really noticed this most when I took it off, because it has that feeling of like, it's like this ghost feeling is like lifting up your leg. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know, for folks out there, real quick, if you ever like stood in a door frame and pressed your arms against the door frame, then stepped out and you felt your arms move up naturally, that's kind of what it felt like to take off the exoskeleton, but with my legs. And there's also, it could also be a training tool where they have like this underwater setting where it actually pushes down on your legs when you try to walk. And so that could be a way to like simulate underwater walking for training purposes maybe, but it is also, you can easily see this as an accessibility tool as well. And the dream of being a porter in the Death Stranding universe is a little bit more real, and I could kind of see, like, if you have hundreds of pounds of things to deliver on your back, I could see how this could be a legitimate help. And I think you've had the most experience out of most people I know, David, of actually using this in the real world, and that's really wild to see. But yeah, what were some other things that stood out to you on the show outside of what we already discussed?
Yeah, well, I was wandering around Central Hall looking at a lot of the gamer stuff, and I found Shift All, which is a Japanese company that makes a lot of VR equipment, and one of them was the Mutalk. That is Mutalk. This is a wearable gadget you put over your mouth and nose, and then what it does is muffle what you say. Now, it kind of makes me look like a cyberpunk platypus, but we actually found it worked pretty well, and it connects wirelessly, or it's got a wired plug in the bottom to your phone or to like your gaming controllers. So ideally, you can just sort of sit around at home and like not bug your friends, your partner, your roommates, your baby, whatever. So it does have some practical application, but you could also, in theory, wear this in public to have more private conversations without people eavesdropping. You just look pretty weird. I loved this as a gamer tool, but you know that is for everyone. Everyone's mileage may vary. Speaking of gamers, there's Lenovo had this AI posture checking concept that will just check using sort of like depth sensing cameras to see whether you're sitting up straight enough, and it'll like sort of be like, hey, maybe you should, maybe you should correct your posture, and maybe you're yawning too much. I love getting nagged by my computer. There was a Tombot finally released its or has its final version of its Jenny Dogbot. This is a dog-shaped robot for seniors that sits on your lap, doesn't move around, but it's meant to be a companion for, a stimulating companion, especially for people with dementia, who need and will benefit from the engagement that a dog-like bot will provide them. And I got to see it with a group of seniors, and they really went, they almost fought over this thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And sorry, not to take up too much time. Lastly, I saw a little D&D helper. There's this little thing, the ArcaLink. ArcaLink is a new company that is making like a tiny little gamer or a game player assistant that you can upload a little image of your hero there, and they also have this DM like assistant that's going to ingest all of your sessions audio and then build you sort of like a bunch of stats of what happened, word cloud of your themes and recurring elements, just something to help with the thankless task of being a dungeon master in today's D&D games.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that all speaks to the variety of stuff that you're going to see at a CES show year in and year out. Which also, Tim, you saw so many other different things as well. I think one of the things that stood out to me was the Asus ROG X-Real R1 glasses, which is X-Real's been doing XR glasses for a while. They collab with Asus to have a sort of gaming grade version of those glasses, and we both tested them out. But I want to get your perspective on those real quick as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like X-Real brought out the big guns for CES. They definitely had the coolest demo I personally experienced, and that was thanks in large part to these glasses. So they worked with ROG, they're called the ROG X-Real R1 glasses. They're coming later this year, probably at an expensive price tag. But they're the first smart glasses with a 240 hertz refresh rate. I got to play Elden Ring on this. It was very impressive. The gameplay was very, very smooth. Colors, everything about it was just very, very impressive. So for people who don't know, these AR augmented reality glasses project a giant virtual screen. So, you're sitting there wearing glasses, but you have a massive, massive display that looks incredible and has a phenomenal refresh rate, right?
Mhm.
So I was very impressed with this demo. I thought it was awesome. The other cool thing Xreal has is instant 2D to 3D conversion. So your Instagram feed, any movie you're watching, any game you're playing, instantly converted into 3 dimensions. It was very, very impressive.
Yeah, I really like the demo that I saw of it because I've been a little skeptical of like virtual theater spaces until I previewed the Steam Frame a couple months ago, and I looked at it and I was like, there's a huge screen in front of me. Of course, it's just projected in a virtual space, like you see at a VR headset, like we saw in the Xreal glasses. But the quality of that image has gotten so good that it would be a preferable way to play a lot of these games. And if you're in a much more tighter space, you could still get that home theater experience with something like this. But of course, again, these things aren't cheap. But something a little bit more tangible, you saw the Lego Smart Play system as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been dying to talk about this one.
Yes.
Sometimes we get this information before we're allowed to release it. I've been dying to share this news. So, Lego calls the Smart Play system the biggest evolution to brick building technology in 50 years. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but
Sure.
it is pretty cool. So it's got 3 parts. They're calling it the Holy Trinity. There's a smart Lego minifigure, a smart brick, which looks exactly like a regular Lego brick, and then a smart tag. So it's a whole new system. It responds as you play. So they're launching with 3 Star Wars sets. So there's an X-Wing, right? As you move the X-Wing through the air, it knows that and makes flying noises. Or if you're shooting, it makes, laser noises. It could light up. And it's really cool how many sensors they built into this teeny tiny little brick. I mean, they've got light sensors, sound sensors, accelerometers, tons more. Yeah, it was very, very cool. I'm just excited to play with it. You know what I mean? So, launching with 3 Star Wars sets in March, you can actually pre-order them on Amazon right now, which isn't the case with a lot of CES products. And at least one of the sets is under $100, which was a nice surprise, I would say.
Sweet. Hit us with a few more things before I turn it over to Matthew to close out our discussion.
Yeah, I already mentioned those custom tint sunglasses. I gotta call them out just because I had so much fun with them. I
Yeah.
can't wait till they arrive, at my doorstep for proper testing. I also love the Jackery Solar Mars bot, which is this sort of autonomous power station. It, literally is a robot that followed me around the showroom floor. That was very, very cool. There's also the Lollipop with a built-in bone conduction speaker.
Hmm.
And Jackery also had a solar gazebo, which I thought was very impressive. Jackery celebrating its 10-year anniversary. So they had some pretty cool stuff at this CES. This bot in particular, I thought that you're seeing on screen was a lot of fun.
Cool, cool. Now, Matthew, you saw the HP's Elite Board keyboard computer. I didn't get to see this. I wish I did because this is such a cool idea to me. Can you tell me did you get hands-on with it and tell me all about it?
Yeah, so I actually saw this at a preview event in New York before CES. Shot a hands-on video with it. It's really cool. The Commodore 64 is back. I think it was a big trend of PC makers putting things inside of other things, and I don't know if this probably is, especially for some of the smaller manufacturers, related to the discussion we're having about memory and the normal products they'd like to make, aren't available as readily, and they're kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. It really is just a 1.5-pound keyboard with a Ryzen chip inside. It's very, it should be not going to be a powerhouse, not going to game on it, but very capable of productivity. And there's a version with a cable and without, with a detachable cable and with a non-detachable cable. So those are sort of different use cases. Keep one at your kiosk at work, or take it with you, work at home, take it with you, work at the office with the same keyboard, the same computer. That's a really unique form factor, something we haven't seen before. In addition to that, Corsair also putting things inside a keyboard. They had they basically put a Stream Deck Plus inside their new Corsair Galleon keyboard. And they didn't bring really any PCs to the show, which I think is sort of evidence of what I was saying about, like, we're going to kind of put that to the side with the memory and component issues right now. We're going to focus on some more of this weird tech. Razer, the same thing. There were no new blades to look at the show, which is unusual.
Mm-hmm.
We were checking out, they had a room full of concepts. One of them was more so looking, some of them were very future looking. One that they were more set on bringing to market was the Project Motoko headset, which kind of mimics, similar to the X-Real, kind of mimics the functionality of a lot of those AR glasses, but without obviously the UI over your face. But they have cameras built in, they'll talk to you, they want to tell you about your environment, they scan things, they give you heads up. These PC makers kind of thinking outside the box and put a computer and a keyboard, put a AI companion in a headset. I mean, they're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard in lieu of a traditional PC upgrade cycle, I think is kind of the trend.
Thank you for all your insight, Matthew. I think that's indicative of just the variety of things that we see at CES. I know I mentioned it before, but it feels like every discussion I have, we're talking about different products. And I couldn't have done that with all the insights from you, Matthew, from David, from Tim. Thank you for taking the time to talk about our show at CES 2026 and making the most of it. So, and also, thank you all for watching. If you missed any of our tech coverage at CES, head on over to IGN.com or IGN's YouTube channel to catch up on all our good stuff. And if you want more exclusive live event coverage from IGN, look out for IGN FanFest next month. But until then, thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.